Hi, I was just reminiscing about an event held on the 28th of April 1991, an event held at the Royal Albert Hall in London that I was very fortunate to attend. And it was in aid of Jerusalem for reconciliation. I don't know if you can see that. This is the actual programme of the night. I've still got it. And yes, I did go. And it was a very significant date because it was the same on that same date. It was the first time that anybody in the world had heard um, um, Duran Duran's premiere of Ordinary World. It was uh, it was an event held in aid of UNICEF, and there was various stars appearing on the actual night. Not just Duran Duran, but there was also stars, music stars. Pauline Black from the Selectors, she was there, and Frances de la Tour, renowned British actress, and there was also Chris Christopherson. He was also there, and also this band were also there, Duran Duran, and it was the days when social networking, social network did not exist. There was no Facebook and no Twitter. So at the time, I was writing a fanzine, the Notorious Duranzine, and I got to hear about this gig in London, and we were none the I was none the wiser. I didn't know what it entailed. I didn't know what Duran Duran were going to be doing on this particular night, and it transpired that they were going to be doing they were going to be performing a very short set, and it turned out that it transpired that they played three numbers. It was I was really excited. It was I mean, Andy wants people to film your best concert experience, and even though this was not a full on Duran Duran concert, it didn't need to be. It was the informality of it. It was the fact that the gig was not being attended by just Duran Duran fans. It was a whole mixture of people. There was. I mean, I was sitting next to film stars and stars of stage and screen, and I think it was also just looking for my photo wallet here. It wasn't a cheap night either, but it was. There's my ticket. £25, and back in 1991, that was pretty pricey. But the actual gig was it meant a great deal to me because it was it I didn't know that Ordinary World was going to be played, and I think back then we didn't really know what the song title was going to be, let alone actually hearing the song. So it was a momentous occasion for me. It was I was excited at the prospect of being part of it. But what was really cool was the fact that when we sat down inside the Royal Albert Hall to watch the whole performance, it it was odd because I couldn't believe it when I turned around in my seat. I sort of saw Nick and John in the box behind me. Simon, I don't think I could see Simon, but Nick and John were definitely in the box. They were there with their families, and I think Julianne Rhodes was definitely in there, and I'm pretty certain Amanda de Cadenet might have been in there as well. But I kept turning around, and when I should have been looking at the performance, I wasn't. I kept turning around and trying to sort of catch a glimpse of the guys. I thought, God, it was just phenomenal. The informality of it, just the occasion, and it was the days when smoking was not. It was allowed. You could. It wasn't against the law to smoke in a public place, and I went outside. I went round the back into the hallway behind the boxes, which is where they were sat. And but believe it or not, I went out for a cigarette, and Nick, and as I went out there, Nick was coming through the door, out of his box, and he'd come out for a cigarette as well. There was just him, and there was just me. There was I think no, I was with a couple of other people, and we just he walks out the door, and we sort of froze, and we were looking at each other. You know, my friends and my wife was there as well, and it's like, well, what do you do now? You know, he stood there having a cigarette. He's on his own having a cigarette. It's just you know, mind numbing, absolutely mind numbing, excited. But anyway, with it, I sort of plucked up the courage to walk up to him and ask him if I could take some photographs. If he minded. The last thing that he wanted was for somebody to start taking photographs. Anyway, so I took some pictures, and they're in here in my photo album that I've kept all this time. 26 years ago. And there's Nick outside his box. Momentous night this was. Ordinary World, the first time, the first play. And there he is. That's when people began to realise that he was actually outside of his box, and fans started coming up, and he started taking photographs. And there he is having his crafty cigarette, look. And there's Simon. He was just walking up the corridor towards me. Looking slightly surprised. And John is there. He's in the picture as well. And there's myself and my wife, my lovely wife. And I think she's actually holding something that we just got signed. Can't quite make that out, or what it is. And there's an actual, I've got some photographs of the concert itself. There's my favourite photograph, and this is them performing Ordinary World for the very first time. And the two other numbers that they played was Do You Believe in Shame, which was just the best, probably the best version I've heard. It's a song that I think means a lot to Simon. Well, it does. I know it means a lot to Simon. Very significant, as was Ordinary World. And they also played Give Me Some Truth by John Lennon. God knows why that didn't actually turn up on the Thank You Covers album, because it was great. Loved it. And just I mean, looking back, I mean, I've been to many Duran Duran performances in my fandom, which probably goes back 30 to 35 years, which incidentally started in 1989 after I'd went to the an Electric Theatre performance in the UK in April 1989, but I think this particular night was meant more to me because of the in-person. It was just very personal, you know. Duran Duran were touchable. You rubbing shoulders with them in the corridor. It was. I mean, John Jones was there as well, the producer of the Wedding album. So I mean, and the Wedding album. I don't know if you can tell, but the shirt I'm wearing is from the Dilate Your Mind tour. It's perhaps one of my favourite Duran Duran albums, but to hear, and I think the reason why it is an important album for me is because of the song Ordinary World. It helped me come through a particular bad time in my life. I was involved in a serious motorcycle accident, and it helped me see things in a different light. If it were, it gave me positive vibes, and it inspired me to have a life, to enjoy my life, which I think I'm doing. But just to now, 26 years later, and knowing the history of Ordinary World and what it meant to the band, and how the band progressed, you know, they had a second crack of the whip, if you like, with superstardom, and they became relevant again. And for me, that's very important. It was the actual song itself is and to hear it for the first time, knowing that I was able to listen to it and to see it 18 months before its official release was just awe-inspiring. I was just overawed, and I was able to report on it as well for a magazine. I think I may have had a scoop on this one, because this magazine, I don't know if you can see that, I think Charlotte's Mag is probably the first publication to get wind of Duran Duran's writing and what they were doing in the lead up to the wedding album. But there's my piece that I wrote for them, and there's a picture of me with Nick on the particular night in question, outside his box. So it's quite interesting to see the photographs and then see something in print. Anyway, so that got there's the live photograph at the bottom there. So, Jerusalem for Reconciliation. It was organised by UNICEF, and it was in aid of impoverished children in the Gulf who were persecuted, and they were there to basically Vanessa Redgrave was there to raise funds for the occasion. Tried to raise a lot of money from very influential people, again from film stars and pop stars and rock stars and so forth. So it was a really, really good night, and I feel humbled that I was part of that particular night. And it for me it's almost similar to I don't know, going back to the 60s when the Beatles were discovered in Liverpool all those years ago. Something like that is just phenomenal to be a part of, and I feel it was just a great night, and just the best. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.